So, hello Andy, this is Alessandro. We spoke on the phone a week ago, and I believe that this video is for you, but as far as I understood, it's for your husband, right? This is a gift you're giving for your husband. So I'm here to try to convince you, but more than everyone, to convince your husband what an incredible gift you actually did. This is a shipment of 12 bottles of what is called the Collectors Club. First level is actually almost the highest version of our collector. There is also another one if he wants or you want to upgrade. As far as I understood, your husband is a geeky wine guy or a snobbish wine guy, like we all are. Actually, everyone that is into wine tends to be a bit snobbish. So you need to have some snobbish information about it. Our wine club is not just a wine club; it's much more than that. I know that especially in the U.S., the wine club is considered something a bit cheesy. Most of the time it's about selling wines that's got a really low price and so on. Our wine club is completely different. We're talking about, first of all, a selection that is really tailor-made. It means a shipment after shipment, we would like to get in to interact with you, and so what you like, what you dislike, and also to tailor-made a bit if you prefer, like maybe so burgundy whites or reds from Sicily and so on. I'll always suggest that to be curious. So the reason about joining a wine club is not necessarily to try what you already know, but something that is different, something that is unique, and also to train your palate to different flavors. Nowadays, especially when we talk about a certain kind of wines, I call them, it's not just the mass-produced wines. I'm talking about wines that are, the Parkerized wines. So those wines are somehow based on a recipe, usually involves a Bordeaux blend, the usual grape varieties that are mainly produced in most of the international or the New World wine regions, where the grape varieties are usually always the same, and this is limiting a bit the potential of how wine can be so surprising and unique, and how do you geoculturally define a wine and a grape variety. Someone call it terroir, you can call it whatever you want. So this is our 12 bottles. Usually how does it work is 12 bottles twice a year, shipment 6 and 6. And usually we choose a couple of sparkling, couple of whites, and the rest will be reds. But again, if you want to change the selection, this is totally tailor-made. That's why this video is just for you. Even if it is on YouTube, it's not listed on YouTube, so only if you share this link you can see it. It's going to be quite a long video, so I will put even timing so you can find each wine description. If you just click below, there is the notes of the YouTube, not here, but on the YouTube website, so you can go directly to see a description of a specific wine. So let's start with the sparkling. Okay, sparkling wine is a really tough matter. It used to be my first love when I started to drink wine 30 years ago. Because I remember my first bottle of Dom Perignon was kind of an epiphany. Before Dom Perignon somehow started to overproduce, I would say the end of the 90s. Nowadays, I still like Dom Perignon, but I think that 4 million bottles is a bit too much. Technically, officially, it's 4 million, but someone says it's probably more than 6 million bottles. I still, happy if I drink an Enoteca 96 or a Troisième Plénitude from 1969, possibly the best sparkling I had in my life with Krug Clos du Mille in 1985. But the problem with Dom Perignon is that it's just the recipe. It means that the yeast that they put inside. It's all about the specific recipe that genius called Geoffroy was able to create in the last 20 years. 15, I would say, more than 20 years. And the chef de cave on Dom Perignon. And to me, he's a master, making the quality for 4 million bottles. But, I would never put a Dom Perignon in my collector's collection because you can find Dom Perignon almost even in Tesco's nowadays in supermarkets. So in Italy, you find it sometimes in really cheap bars in the suburbs of Rome. The price could be between 140, 150 euros, possibly in US it's even less. So there is no point to put a Dom Perignon in it. So when I select the sparkling, I have to be really careful. I was lucky enough to help Luca Burei and Maurizio Paparello. I'm talking about 10 years ago, more or less. They created a guide called the 99 Champagne that now is internationally recognized as a really good guide. It was like the best of 99 Champagne. And I remember we were doing these sessions and drinking like every time, like 30, 40 champagne in a row, and it was a tough job. Someone had to do it, but I learned so many things from that, and also from my travel to Champagne. But I had my really second epiphany after Dom Perignon when I was able to visit the Reims Bio Champagne Festival. It's every year, usually it's around April 20th. I don't know if this year with COVID they will do it. But if you want to learn something about sparkling, go there. It's incredible. You have possibly all the best champagne that you like are there. I'm talking about the small growers. I'm not talking about Pommery, Krug, Bollinger, or Bollinger, as you want to say it in German style, and Dom Perignon, of course, Taittinger. Those wineries, which I absolutely respect, they, beside their big crews, usually, I don't know if I will ever drink a Pommery. I don't really care about drinking Pommery, even Taittinger, the basic one. Röderer, maybe, yes. Cristal is a bit up and down, Puff Daddy loves it, but even Tarantino in 4 Rooms, and there is a beautiful scene, I'll send it to you. He's talking about Cristal. But what I'm talking about, those wines, more than wines, are beautiful, incredible, sophisticated beverages. Because beside the quality of the grape, which is, I know that they select, especially Krug, Eric Lebelli, he is a genius in selecting grapes. And he helps the small growers to raise and to treat the vineyard properly so that they can have a good grape at the end. But even though we're talking about a lot of bottles, hundreds of thousands, so you cannot really control the quality of every single passage. So at the end, most of the energy is focused in the cellar. In the cellar, it means 2 things. It's about, finding the right recipe of sugar, liquor, and yeast so that the wines will taste all the same. Second of all, able maybe to keep some old tanks of some specific vintages you like. For example, at the moment, the Grand Cuvée from Krug at the moment, I think it's a blend of 20 different vintages. Then 166, that the last Cuvée, I think it involves 1990, 1996 a bit, and 98, and a few others. So it's an alchemy approach to wine production. Nothing to do with the concept of Burgundy style wine production. Is about the small vineyard and being able to keep in control, taking control of all the process. And so this small group of growers, they started to create a group to say, guys, until yesterday there was only these big wineries and some unknown small growers, which are more than 9,000 by the way. So we would like to create a kind of a consortium of quality organic winemakers that they like to respect quality. They respect the wine process, especially in the vineyard. So wines made in the vineyard, not in the cellar. So on a Burgundy style, I would say. Celos was one of the first ones. You probably know if you are wine passionate. Celos. Sometimes I put it in my selection. Celos. Celos was the first one that started to do the cru ones. The cru ones, it means a champagne that come from that specific vineyard. I can somehow possibly say that the first cru wines was Clos du Mesnil from 1979. At the beginning, it was not meant, they didn't buy Krug, didn't buy that vineyard in Mesnil-sur-Roger thinking about a cru. But then they decided that the wine was so good there, and it became probably the most expensive champagne ever. More than Dom Perignon for sure. I mean, I buy myself a bottle every year with my wife, and we celebrate usually my birthday or her birthday, and it costs a lot of money, but it's really good. So the cru actually started to be an issue even for a small grower, mainly because of Celos. And he created a group, I would say Celos, Vincent Laval, and after that, Marguet. Marguet to me is the new star of champagne production. Everyone is talking about of Marguet, and trust me, those champagne, here I am to prove it. If it's not gonna fuck up in the next years, this champagne's from, I'm talking about the second bottle over here. They're gonna cost a lot of money. Already now it's $100 bottle, whatever, 120, but in the future it's gonna be really, really, really expensive. I've seen actually the Marguet, le Beaumont, that one over there at Cap de Vin Supernaturel in New York. I think that was like $600. So it's a good deal. Just with that bottle, you buy all the other ones. So, but before talking about champagne, let's talk about Italy. Let's give a chance to our beautiful country, which is possibly a bit unfamous for its sparkling. And the most important sparkling wine from Italy is called the Prosecco. I call it the chicken McNuggets of wine. Prosecco, I don't even want to talk about Prosecco, it makes me feel bad. There are some good Prosecco, I'm talking about the one that actually produced in the higher hills of Valdobbiadene, but 99% Prosecco. It's the Midwest of wine production. I can make jokes about Midwest because my wife is from there, and so when I brought her in Prosecco, in the Prosecco area, she said, you brought me back in the suburbs of Detroit. Because it's just a valley. Instead of cornfields that you have these stupid vineyards that are totally lame. And we're talking about wines that cost $3 per bottle, maybe sold in US for $20-25, but usually here it's $350. 300 million bottles. Then there is a small area, not so far from the Prosecco area, called the Franciacorta. If you know a bit about wine, probably you know about it, but Franciacorta became famous internationally only in the last 7-8 years. Before was the fancy sparkling wine production, but not so far from Milan. The idea was to imitate champagne. Let me tell you something. My ideas about wine change quite often, but something that I realized is about my aesthetical approach to pleasure. My aesthetical approach to pleasure is try to avoid redundancy, try to avoid homologation, repetition. So I don't like imitations. So to me, if you're planting a Cabernet in Tuscany, you have to tell me why you are doing that. What's the reason behind it? And most of those winemakers will tell you secretly, especially after a big night of drinking, that the reason why they did it is because of tourism. It's for commercial reasons. It's not because they like the Cabernet from Tuscany, but it's because a lot of foreigners ask it. So I actually came out with the idea that most of the Super Tuscan are just a bad imitation of Napa Valley, which is sometimes a bad imitation of Bordeaux. Please don't bring me here the bottle shock thing. I am not saying that Napa Valley doesn't make beautiful wines. In a way, yes, but that's not the point. It's not about quality. It is about, upon the more than 5,000 type of grape varieties you have all over the world, why 95% of the vineyards in the New World are mainly planted on 5 grape varieties: Cabernet, Merlot, Chardonnay, Sauvignon, Pinot Noir, Cabernet, Merlot, Chardonnay, a bit more Syrah, maybe like in Australia, and Malbec in Argentina. But biodiversity surely is not a big concept. Why is that? Because those regions had to grow so fast, and it was easier for them to sell the grape variety more than the soil and the place. And also was easier to reduce the complexity of choice. In Italy, we are lucky enough that we're not really organized and commercial as Americans or Australians, so we still mess up with more than 2,000 grape varieties. So that's the beauty of this country, that every single village you go, you're going to find a different flavor. No? So, said that, after, bottle after bottle, it happens. I don't know if it happened the same thing to you or to your collectors friends and wine passionate friends. You might start to get a bit tired if you travel south and north of Napa. Maybe you would like to go in Oregon, or you would like to go in Washington State. You would like to go in Santa Barbara, another country. Maybe after that you would like to go to Bordeaux, and then after Bordeaux you would like to go to the Loire Valley. And the Loire Valley you have the Rhone Valley, and then you have Barolo, and then you have Barbaresco. And so you will notice that it's not a matter to find a winner or a loser, which is the Robert Parker or James Suckling approach, giving points to wine, but it's about, training your palate to a cultural biodiversity. So every single sip will give you a different emotion. Then you will find, you will surely at certain points start to decide that you prefer one wine to the other, but that's a different thing. To me, as an aesthetic, as a musician, for example, as a painter, or as a writer, you like to be omnivorous. So it means you like to try different things. And to me, Italy is a beautiful gym. It's a cultural gym for your palate. Here comes Franciacorta. Now, I will partially contradict myself, because this guy, what he did, he used the official Chardonnay, a bit of a Pinot Noir. But what actually he did, he went in a completely different direction from all his neighbor. Because his neighbor, they tend to plant the vineyards in the valley. They tend to harvest the grape when it was too young, when it was too raw somehow, so to maintain the acidity, because Franciacorta near Milan is not like Champagne. We're talking about a specific region, which is 70 kilometers east of Milan. And so they started to imitate Champagne without achieving it, because most of those ones were just bad imitation of Champagne. What's the point? Maybe cheaper, but who cares? Sometimes Italians, okay, I can drink a good Franciacorta for $5 less than a Champagne, or $10. you know, I would rather spend $10 more instead of getting poisoned by all this yeast and selected yeast and liquor and sugar that gives me a lot of headache in the morning. So this guy, he created a system called the solo uva, that means only grape. This is, he's probably high level, only I think 700 bottles produced of this T2008. I don't think this one it's on the market, maybe you're gonna find a few bottles. It's not as expensive as the other, but keep it, take care, and maybe drink it beside it. So these are the two bottles over here, 1 and 2. Champagne versus Italy would be incredible. To me, one of the best growers at the moment, récoltant manipultant, how you say it in English, as in grower and whatever, récoltant manipultant, RM, and my friend Giovanni Arcari, Arcari Danesi, are two friends actually, they are producing the wine together. 10 years on its own yeast, while this one here is only, as far as I remember, 4 years on its own yeast, okay? Le Beaumont, we're talking about 100%, let me sure, yes, 100% Chardonnay, because sometimes he puts a bit of a blend. I'm totally blind because of the lights, but I'm pretty sure, yeah, 100% Chardonnay. But it's coming from Reims Mountains. Probably you know the Reims Mountains is mainly Pinot Noir. If you go to Ambonnet, for example, they call mountains, but they are more higher hills. Comparing to the flat area of Valle della Marne, for sure is actually, you can consider them mountains. Cooler climate. This is usually a mix of chalk and clay soil. I think I have a video of Marguet. I surely have a video of Giovanni Arcari, so you can get some more technical information directly from their mouth. By the way, they are both good friends, so if you want to ask them a question, I can surely ask them directly, and they will surely ask them for sure, Giovanni Arcari. So, Franciacorta from Italy, Champagne from Reims Mountains, Le Beaumont, two completely different style. Zero sulfites added in this wine, which is really rare in Champagne, zero sulfites. It means you can drink a couple of bottles of this wine, no headache tomorrow. Don't do that, I'm just saying, potentially. I know you can, but you have only one. You have to order another one. While this one here, maybe a bit of a sulfites, but surely not strong. No, almost no added sugar in this one here. And it's a beautiful comparison because this is 10 years age, so this could be slightly rounder. This might be slightly crispier with a bit of more metallic and acidity at the end. If you have to, I don't know which one you should start with. If you want to try them together, my suggestion, invited 7-8 good friends and do this champagne sparkling tasting, Italy versus France. I know it's not a challenge, but in a way it is. And my suggestion, we're talking about pairing, we're talking about really important bubbles here. So do not pair with something really easy. Fish is always a good choice. I wouldn't go with oysters unless you have some good nutty hazelnut buttery fat oysters without any lemon, without any seawater in it. Just, you know, do like this and eat the oyster as it is. In that case, possibly I would say a Regal if you can find it, but I don't think you can find Regal oysters in the US. Baja California or Baja, how do you say? Baja California are the ones that are more similar that I tried. I actually found really good oysters in California. I was quite surprised. Even Baja California, I think it's Mexico, whatever. But that's a good choice. Beside that, I would go for king prawns with perfect. Lobster would be absolutely perfect. But you know, to me, there is no limits for a good sparkling pairing. I used to pair, I remember, Parmigiano Reggiano and Krug was an incredible pairing. Like a good Manchego or a Comté from Jura with this one here. A good Comté that is maybe 24, 36 months. So not the really buttery soft one, the slightly that is a bit more chalky one. And but even a fillet steak. I mean, as long as you don't pair it with anything sweet, no barbecue sauce, no ketchup, no disgusting things like those ones, okay? So, Marguet and Arcari Danesi. My colleague Michela will also write a technical description of each wine, so short lines where you can have some information, so you don't want to listen to all these boring stories. Now, we're going to move to the whites. I will do the wines paired one with the other, okay? This is my creation. I am partially responsible for this wine, so if you don't like it, you have to blame myself. Because when I first tasted this wine, it was a bottle, an old bottle of 2012 Etna. We are in Sicily, on the mountain Etna, 700 meters, 750 meters on the sea level, in a beautiful palmetto. There is a video of the winemaker, I'll send it to you. You just click for the subtitles in YouTube, and it's English subtitle. It took us a lot of time to do those videos, so please appreciate it. It's a nice way to get in touch directly with the winemaker, so you can feel it, you're part of the thing. That's the main thing about it. When you taste the wine, I'm going to tell you, to you, but also to your friends, when you drink wines, don't drink labeled. labels. Don't drink bottles, drink places, drink people, in the sense that drink environments, cultural, social experiences. That's what it's wine about. It's not about the label, it's what's behind it, okay? So go directly to the source of the wine, my suggestion. That's what our wine club is about. So this is the Etna. Etna, the main grape variety there is Caricante, but there are probably other ones. Minella is another one. I remember when I was talking about with Rosario Pappalardo, the husband of the owner, because actually the owner of the winery is Alice Bonaccorsi, and he said, here, I don't know which grape varieties I have in my vineyard. I have no clue. I might have some like 10 different grape varieties. Every week, every year we discover a new one. It's not even registered. So forget about the grape variety for the moment. I would say that it's mainly Caricante, which is a grape variety that matches perfectly with the volcanic soil. Even more, I would say, that the Nerello Mascalese, which is the official red wine from there. Volcanic soil, rich of iron. It's beautiful, gives this beautiful smoky finish. Like, this is the wine with sulfites without sulfites. It means that you have a sulfurian sense on the smell, but none of that sulfites usually that is there just to preserve the wine. It's a natural sulfurs. And when I was there at the winery, we tried this wine, and he brought this bottle from the cellar. I said, oh, I have the last 90 bottles there, and I want to keep it there because I like 2012. And I said, Rosario, this is the best Italian white wines I had in the last 5 years. So please keep those bottles on the side. Leave it there, because this wine in a couple of years is going to be incredible. What do you mean leave it there? I'm going to buy them all, but leave it there in the cellar. Okay, if you want to label it with limited edition, okay. And that's what he did. So this bottle technically doesn't exist. He kept the 20 bottle for himself, and that's it. So it's a 2012 limited edition Caricante and other grape varieties from Etna, Alice Bonaccorsi and Rosario Pappalardo. Boom, 8 years old for a white wine that to me is look like Montrachet one produced in Sicily in a way. You might say this kind of a tough comparison, because Montrachet is possibly one of the best white wines in the world, one of the best wine in the world. I wouldn't even distinguish from red or white. But I don't know, do yourself a favor, contemplate this wine. Don't serve it as super cold temperature. Keep it as it is. Okay, it means that you have to keep the bottle not too cold, not from the fridge. Maybe keep it in the fridge, but then take it out, leave it half an hour, 45 minutes, drink it slowly in a beautiful Zalto glass if you have. Nano, Riedel glass if you have. It has to be almost a burgundy glass, because it's so rich, so powerful, so smoky, so buttery but not too strong. Nice honey flavor at the end, like a bitter honey. It looks like the herbs of Sicily all there. Orange, the skin of the orange. Pair it. That's the stuff. Pair it with, I would go with saffron risotto. I would go even with some truffle, something like hummus, like soily. Like white truffle. I remember that could be a great pairing. Red prawn tartare with white truffle from Amber. How are you gonna get this stuff in US? You cannot. So just imagine it, okay? I don't want to frustrate you too much, but I'm thinking about something good that you could find in US. Even though with some medium hard cheese will be great. Some Parmigiano again. But not really old Parmigiano. We say 24 months Parmigiano. It could be a nice pairing. Beside that, so from Sicily to the extreme north, we're going to go to Friuli. We have a beautiful video of Gravner. It's Mattia, which is the daughter of the owner. This is one of the most famous white wine from northeast of Italy. And this is how can I possibly say? This is the first winemaker that decided to use amphor in Italy, to reintroduce the concept of amphor. Why? Because amphor used to be the official, container for wine up to the 3rd century after Christ. So the Georgia never stopped using it, but in Europe we started to use barrels after that, or maybe vask, like cement vask or similar things like that, or clay vask. But so amphors used to be and so he decided to go back to that. He brought those amphors directly from Georgia, and he started to do some experiments. It took him a while to understand, but now after 2006, to me, we're talking about a completely different style of white wine. It's almost like drinking a beautiful, complex, expensive Chinese tea. in terms of aromas. The color is orange, so skin contact. So I don't know if you use, this is probably the master of the orange wines. A completely different approach. Super expensive wine, so try to like it. And I don't know, Gravner, I think I found that the Charlie Bird was $400 on the list online. Surely you're gonna find it for less. But this is a 2010, by the way, possibly one of the best vintages of Gravner. In this case, now I would go from some goat cheese, or with the orange, we would be great with carbonara sauce pasta. I don't know if you have carbonara, something that adds some eggs in it. Some eggs with truffle will be again something really good. If you have some really good eggs, I'm not talking about to drink this wine for breakfast, even though why not? So, but again, there is a video here, so I would like, to give the opportunity to the winemaker itself to explain the wine. Now, my friend Scarzello, we have a beautiful video of Scarzello too. And I would not spend too many words talking about this winemaker because he tells everything, again, English subtitles. So if you want to learn something about wine, trust me, I learned selecting wine for the wine clubs in the last 10 years, especially for our wine tasting. I learned more than the 20 years before, which I studied from. I did WSET level, I did Italian Sommelier Association, and they tell you stories that are, they're written in books in those courses, but they are not, most of them, they are not real. They don't correspond to reality. I'll give you an example. You can learn everything about Chianti Classico in books, but then you will discover that 98% of the winemakers, they don't follow those rules. Think about Napa Valley, for example. It was really interesting to visit Mathiasson in Napa Valley, even Arno Roberts in Sonoma. Which, by the way, Arno Roberts, incredible. I was the typical snobbish European that say I would never drink American wines in my life. After my third trip in US, I discovered some beautiful, few of them I have to say, but the few of them really, and Arno Roberts is one of them. He's actually the nephew of Mondavi, but a completely different style from Mondavi. And Mathiasson, which makes kind of a good wine. He's a friend of us, and she was so nice, and she said something really, really simple, and she said Napa Valley is potential the best incredible wine region in the world. You have the ocean in both sides, you have volcanic soil, you have sediments from the river, the temperature excursion is always perfect all over the year, between 26 to 15 degrees. I know, beside the fact that there is no water, which is technically a good thing if you don't irrigate too much, thing that you can do in US. You have that. Why all the wines are so ripe, so oaky? Why nobody expressed the soil? And so you study all the AVA from Napa, which I think are more than 19 or 20, but then at the end, the wine, they don't taste of the place. They taste of oak, they taste of overripe fruit, which might be really good. I don't dislike Screaming Eagle. We had a 97 a couple of years ago, just because someone offered it. I would never spend $4,000 in such a kind of bottle of wine. But then at the end I said, I don't know. I mean, I smell only oak, and it's beautiful, the best oak in the world, but I know this wine could be from everywhere. It could be a cab from Tuscany, it could be a cab from Australia. I don't really recognize Napa Ocean there. So going back to our friend, is that to me the Barolo area is the quintessential region of biodiversity, where every single spot is a different flavor, even more than Burgundy. Burgundy has got more cultural biodiversity because they have a longer tradition. So it's actually in Barolo, they made Barolo even before Burgundy, but they never stopped producing a certain type of wine in Burgundy for 1,400 years, while in Barolo it was a bit more up and down. So it's so interesting because here we have a cru that is called Sarmassa, and the cru of Sarmassa is based on a hill on two sides, and there are at least three different souls of that specific cru. It's somehow like Clos du Vosgeot in Burgundy. It depends where the vineyard is coming from. No, it's not just who is making it, but where the wine is coming from. Which part of that specific vineyard, that I don't think is more than 8 hectares, so 15 acres, divided per, I would say, 5-6 winemakers. The merenda, that means afternoon lunch or something, like appetizer or something. That's the way farmers used to rest. But you know what? The winemakers is going to explain it perfectly. To me, it's an incredible wine, Scarzello. 13, probably this is one of the only young wine with the Barolo 15. I'm talking about that on a Nebbiolo base, because this is one of the cru that you can drink it even when it's young. To me, this is one of the best Barolo I tried last year. 13 was an astonishing vintage. Do yourself a favor. Drink it slowly, share it with friends, don't drink alone because it's sad, or with your wife, and with whoever you want to share with. But this is a sharing wine that needs to drink softly and with calm and patience. If you want to keep the wine in the cellar for 4 or 5 years, you're not going to make any damage to your palate, to your wallet, by the way, because this wine probably will cost much more in 4 or 5 years, and of course to the quality of the wine is going to be different. Now we're gonna move to Tuscany. I'm gonna contradict myself, but this is the typical Luca San Giusto. This very tiny little guy. They always dress really fancy, and in Tuscany. And this is 100% Merlot. And I don't know. I know that when we talk about Merlot, we always think about sideways. You know, to remember that line. You know, when you enter in the restaurant, say, you know, I'll do everything, but I'm not gonna drink a fucking Merlot tonight. Sorry for the afterword, but this was a quote from the incredible Paul Giamatti. By the way, to me, Sideways is a really good movie. It's not just a simple comedy. They speak about wine really, really, really properly. Okay, so and then we did the tour every year. We redo the tour Sideways tour with my wife in Santa Barbara. And why that he was blaming Merlot, but a grape variety by itself cannot be guilty of anything. It's just a plant. It's just a type of grape. So why Merlot is considered such a cheesy type of wine all over the world? But mainly for one reason. Merlot has a really, really short vegetative cycle if you plant it in a warm climate condition, and maybe in the wrong soil. So what happened that if you plant Merlot in Sicily, you're gonna have a harvest that is probably the second part of August. A lot of fruit, a lot of sugar, a lot of easy drinking, low tannins, and the wine, it's easy to drink but a bit flat. Sometimes after a couple of glasses, maybe you get tired of it. So that's why Merlot is considered a bit cheesy for this reason, okay? But if you're lucky enough to try some old bottles of Chateau Vieux Certain or La Conseillante, and if you're rich enough to afford a 1982 Chateau Petrus, you will probably understand and realize that Merlot can be an incredible, refreshing, complex, beautiful, elegant, over the top in the sense of, in the most snobbish sense of the word, over the top wine ever, because they harvest the Merlot at the beginning of October. You know, maybe with global warming, I don't know right now, but still, it's really, really different type of Merlot. We did a tasting that was, what about Merlot? It was called the name of the tasting, Parliamo di Merlot, 3 years ago. We tasted Merlot from 82, 85, 89, and 88, and which included also Petrus in 1985. And, you know, there was no way you could consider those wine flat and cheesy. And beside that, we tasted also left bank, opposing to the right banks. And the left bank was actually more ripe and more ready to drink than the Merlot. So the opposite, you know. So interesting. And to me, Galatrona, Petrolo, is following this rule. This is a really expensive bottle. You can see on Google 95, 98 points, Parker, Suckling, 100 points, fuck it, again. It's a bottle that could cost, here in Italy, 120, 130 for the young vintages, so you might guess. So it's a good deal even for your collectors. By the way, I was really generous with this selection, I have to say. Not all the collectors have what you had here. This is the red wine, limited edition, so Cruci Monaci. So it's a cru that is 120 years old in the Etna. Do you remember the white wine we had before? Also a nice interesting thing is to taste these two wines. This one maybe with the appetizer, with the main course the same night. You do your personal Sicilian tour, and then you compare 2008. And this is a suggestion, actually, they liked the idea of the 2012 that I gave them, and so they decided to do this limited edition of 2008. So I thought it would be nicer to put it again. To me, at the moment, this is one of the 2-3 best Etna wines ever. I know Etna is becoming so fancy, sometimes a bit overrated in my opinion. They speak about Etna people, but they don't even know what it is about, because most of the Etna wines are not made by Etna people. You know, I'm not against foreigners that come to Etna, but sometimes they saw that there were a lot of money there, and so, you know, they just sell the label concept of Etna, maybe use a lot of oak, they start to use a lot of chemicals and stuff. Now, we're gonna move to Lazio. We did a tasting with my friend Emanuele Pancrazzi a couple of weeks ago, and we have a video also of this winemaker, so I will send it to you. This guy to me is doing an incredible job. We're talking about a red wine from the region of Rome, which region was famous all over the years in the last 50 years to produce the worst wine in the world. Making quality in this region is impossible, and selling quality is even more difficult. So it means you may make the best wine in the world, nobody buy it because it's from Lazio, no? While Tuscany and Piedmont or Burgundy, they're fancy and everyone will buy the wine just because it's written Barolo or Burgundy on the top. If it's written Lazio, nobody will buy it. Even though, to me, here was one of the most interesting wine region of central Italy. We're just close to the border of Tuscany, where it's called the Etruscan area. The Etruscan area is an incredible area for a lot of reasons. So first of all, we're talking about some of the best climate conditions for wine. Most of them, this is a volcanic soil, and also there you have beautiful climate, 25 kilometers far from the sea. It's almost like Napa Valley. Every night at 7 o'clock evening, there is a wind coming from the sea that refresh the grape and give you a beautiful balance to the wine, to the grape, and so you don't overripe it, so you have perfect phenolic maturation of the skin during September. This guy is a crazy guy that invested all his money that he had in a small production of wines that, now they cost like between $40 to $90. The red labels, $800 here in Italy. I don't think you can find in US this bottle. It's only 2,000 bottles of production, so on. So, but what I liked is, I call it the Super Lazio, because he actually blend. He has several grape varieties, which has Montepulciano, he has a bit of Grenache, Alicante, and Syrah also he put in it, and he decided that area was perfect for those type of grape varieties, because especially for the Syrah and Grenache, because of the temperature excursion, beautiful spiciness. It's like a warm hug, this wine. Somehow is the opposite of this red wine here. So it will be nice. No, don't do that. But for technical reason, if you want to improve your palate, this one beside this one here, your palate will explode. This is all soil. This is all Mediterranean soft sun. No, it might reminds you a bit of Napa Valley, but with a bit of refreshing balsamic style. Napa Valley sometimes is a bit flat. I'm talking about average, of course. I know that there are beautiful Napa Valley that are not like this. This is a wine that can stay in the cellar for another 4 or 5 years, but if you're going to open it right now, you're not going to regret it. You're going to finish the bottle right in less than 20 minutes. I would suggest to drink it slowly in any case. About pairing, this might need something slightly fat, like pork chops quality, like wild boar or some game, but a bit of fat game, some deer with a bit of a fat. Even with some sauce stuff and so on, nothing too much raw, or I wouldn't go with a fillet steak, for example. It's not that you cannot drink it with a fillet steak. It's going to be as good. Video also for that one, so I'll send it to you. Now we're going to finish with the big four. Big four, because we go back to Barolo here. This is my friend Palladino. Palladino is the wine at the house right now. I think we are the biggest buyer. So Parafada is a really tiny little crew on the village of Serralunga d'Alba. Serralunga d'Alba is the quintessential area of Barolo, not so far from the Paitin concept, which is a Barbaresco. This is interesting. If you want to compare these two, sometimes people ask me, what's the difference between Barolo and Barbaresco? And I used to answer, I have no clue. Technically, there is no difference, and there is a lot of difference. It's the same grape variety. So, Barolo, I like Barolo because it's bigger than Barbaresco. No, it's just more expensive, which depends, because, for example, this Barbaresco costs 3 times more than this Barolo. So, the concept here is about that the wine over here, it depends on the soil. So you have to consider the Barolo and Barbaresco, we call it formazioni di liquido. It's a type of soil, it's sediments from the ocean and from the river. We're talking about a few million years ago. And so there are parts of Barolo closer to the village of Barbaresco that are more similar to other parts of Barolo. So sometimes Barolo and Barbaresco can be more similar than two Barolos and two Barbaresco. It depends where it's coming from. So all this information to me is put it on the side. I don't know how geeky you are, how expert you are about wine, but I can tell you, most of the people that talk about Barolo and Barbaresco, especially if they read those things in books, they say wrong things. I can send you beautiful videos about it, especially about Luca Paitin. He explained this thing perfectly, better than any teacher can do it. I think he speaks in English also, part of it. So, but anyway, everything is subtitled here. So two different versions of Barolo Barbaresco, 14 and 15. If someone told you 14 was not a good vintage, can you beat him up for me? 14 in Barbaresco was an astonishing vintage. Sometimes, don't take it personal, we call in Italy the American vintages. The American vintages are the over-hot, over-ripe vintages that some wine American journalists love, and so they think or they start to promote those wines because they're ready to drink it now. But after 4 or 5 years, the vintages like 97, for example, vintages like 2004, vintages like 2009 that were considered incredible. Now you compare it with the 96, for example. Now you compare it with the 2005 or a 2010, and you will discover that those wines are much better. Because we wait. Because we're not in a rush. So 14 to me is an incredible vintage. If you can resist, keep this wine at least 5-6 years in the cellar. This is a wine you should wait a bit. If you cannot resist, you need to have something juicy that could balance the tannins, okay? Again, a bit of a Parmigiano. This, in this case, really aged. With this Barolo, Parafada is the female... Sorry. I cannot transmit COVID through the webcam, but don't worry. I'm not positive in any case. So, bad joke, sorry. Parafada is a softer hard clay. It's not the hard clay of the southern part of Serralunga. Is on the top of the hill. There's only, I think, 2 producers that are making Parafada, or 3. Palladino, and the other one is Massolino. And it's beautiful because this is a vintage that is, a cru that is so soft and hard and soft at the same time. So it's female and male. I would say Barolo is more a male type of wine, you know, in the sense that a lot of hard tannins and so on, or an obscure, fascinating old woman also. But in this case, I think it's more androgynous, if I can go further on the gender issue to describe the wine. 2 wines here that needs a bit of truffle. Black truffle will be great, as I was telling before. But again, this one maybe wait a second. And we finish with 2 big stuff. This is not for you, okay? So if I'm giving it to you, it's because I'm really generous, because these wines cost the entire selection. So I don't think you can find a Vietti. This is a 2008 Rocche for less than $350. I'm talking about retail prices. And 2008, I don't know. I mean, this wine went crazy, especially because he decided to sell the winery in 2015. So he's still running the winery, but he's not the owner anymore. But after that, prices of Vietti went so high. About La Casuccia, Bellavista, this one here, the Chianti 97. I don't know. This is a bottle that again costs $200-300. We don't really care about prices because, you know, this is not the point. It's vulgar to talk about money. But I just want to let you know that these 2 bottles are really, 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 really important. Well, this is wine to drink it now, okay? This is 23 years old, 97 Tuscany, super overrated vintage in my opinion. But this is the guy that started to talk Chianti, the Chianti language on a high level. This one and Montevertine, Sergio Manetti. So Marco Pallanti and Sergio Manetti, they were the first 2 people that started to invest in Chianti, not in terms of the cheesy wine with the basket around to serve in cheap Italian restaurant. This was a Chianti that was really, really conceived and perceived as really, really, really expensive, okay? And won all possible awards. He's a guy also that used to make a Merlot again, called the La Parita. And I have a nice story about Marco Pallanti meeting. I don't think it was Michel Roland, but you know, I know it was I think it was Michel Roland. Because I don't know if at that time Michel Roland was a Chateau Petrus, but that's the story. Okay, Marco Pallanti decided to plant a Merlot. Okay, besides Sangiovese and others, and so he makes this wine called the La Parita. I think was the 1990, the first vintage, whatever. But then he goes in a blind taste in Bordeaux. And at the end, it was the best Merlot all over the world. And at the end, there are only 2 of them remaining, Chateau Petrus and La Parita. And the winner was La Parita from this guy here. So Michel Roland, I don't know if it was Michel Roland, but the guy that was actually running the winery of Petrus in 1990, he came to Marco Parlanti a bit nervous, and I said, "What's going on? Who are you? What is this? You know what? I am Marco Parlanti. I make wine. You make wine, but where? In Tuscany. In Tuscany? Where is Tuscany? Ah, yes, Tuscany. Ah, Tuscany. It's south of Barolo. Yes, it's south of Barolo. And what about you? What do you mean? What about me? It's Chateau Petrus. It's the most important Bordeaux. Chateau Petrus. Which region it is? Which region is Bordeaux? Ah, Bordeaux. It's west of Burgundy. So, stupid joke you can tell to your friends, but it's absolutely true. He was really pissed off. So, the concept is that this guy really believed that Sangiovese could give you, with Sergio Manetti, we're talking about the two people that at that moment were investing in Sangiovese, higher hills of the Chianti Classico, were not so far from Greve in Chianti, the heart of Chianti Classico, and he decided to make a crew using beautiful new barrels. The problem with this one was a bit too oaky when it was young. I opened a bottle recently of this one. It was absolutely astonishing. You don't find this bottle ever. Le Rocche, while it's the Barolo from Vietti, 2008, called super traditional type of vintage. This is, to me, is a beautiful masterpiece in terms of how, I don't know if you know about the difference between the modern style and the traditional style Barolo. Barolo boys, they used to call them, because they were the group that used to age the wine in small barrels and making the Barolo a bit more, modern, I would say, so a bit more oaky. A lot of winemakers did a lot of damages, but it was nice, the conflict that created a nice discussion. And nowadays, I would say that the Barolo boys are a bit more apart. I would put Vietti in between this discussion, because Vietti, he liked to renovate, he liked to change, to, look at tradition with a, critical point of view, but on the same time without erasing and cancelling all the tradition. He has Rocche di Castiglione and Le Rocche. There are beautiful vineyards in Castiglione Falletto, slightly softer than other Barolo, especially Rocche di Castiglione. So the tannins are not so hard. And it's a wine that, to me, at the moment, 2008, is going to be an incredible drinking experience. To me, those two wines, you can even drink them alone, just with a bit of a bread on the side, and contemplate how they evolve, sip after sip and glass after glass. This is it. So, thank you for your attention. I don't know your name, I'm sorry, because I only know the name of your wife, but this is a video that you can share with your wife, with your friends, with whoever you want. I hope you will enjoy my wines, our wines, and any question you have, please ask. We'll include a couple of gifts also in the box, so you're going to be, a couple of surprises. I don't want to tell you what it is. And we're going to do an expedite shipping for you, so this wine will arrive quite soon, I have to say. We'll now at the moment, I think you're going to have it the first week of December. Any problem you have with tracking numbers and everything, just let me know. I remind you that there is a website called community.wine, that all this thing, we can do it on streaming with your friends. So if you need any help, I will let you speak for sure more and speak less, but I am here to help and to give you all the support you need. So thank you very much, and I don't know if you're Catholic, in that case, Merry Christmas. If you're not, a happy holiday, and I hope maybe one day you can come to visit us and to do an incredible tasting in our tasting room. We're in Rome, and we're famous to do possibly the best tasting of Europe, and we're planning to be the best in the world for sure. Thank you very much, and keep in touch. Ciao.